You sit down to work. 5 minutes later, your mind is somewhere else. You open one tab. Then 3. Then 7. And in the background, a quiet thought appears. Why can't I just focus like everyone else? You call yourself distracted. Unreliable. Scattered. But what if your mind isn't broken? What if it's built differently? You don't struggle because you don't care. You struggle because your mind moves fast. Faster than conversations. Faster than deadlines. Faster than people expect. You start projects with intensity. The beginning feels electric. But somewhere in the middle, something fades. The energy drops. The task feels flat. And guilt arrives. You watch other people stay consistent. Finish what they start. Stick to routines. Meanwhile, your brain jumps. From idea to idea. From plan to possibility. From what you're doing to what you could be doing instead. It doesn't just affect your work. It affects how you see yourself. You start believing you're inconsistent. Undisciplined. Maybe even lazy. So you overcorrect. You build strict schedules. Detailed plans. Rigid systems. For a few days, it works. Then something collapses. And the cycle repeats. This pattern isn't random. It reflects how your nervous system responds to stimulation. How your brain processes novelty. And how your personality is wired. But before changing behavior, you need to understand something deeper. Why does your brain keep pulling you away from what you should focus on? You are not scattered. You are stimulation sensitive. Some brains are optimized for stability and repetition. Others are optimized for exploration and possibility. If you score high in openness or novelty-seeking traits, your brain is tuned toward new input. New connections. New patterns. Evolutionarily, this wiring had value. Explorers needed it. Inventors depended on it. Problem solvers thrived on it. But modern systems reward repetition. Long tasks. Predictable routines. Sustained focus on a single channel. So your wiring starts to feel like a defect. It isn't. It's an adaptation placed in the wrong environment. The issue isn't that your mind wanders. It's that you were never taught how it actually works. And when you don't understand a system, you fight it. Let's look at the system. Your brain runs on dopamine. Not as a pleasure chemical, but as a motivation signal. Dopamine rises in anticipation. When something is new, uncertain, potentially meaningful. When you begin a project, dopamine spikes. Your brain registers possibility. This could matter. But once the task becomes predictable, dopamine drops. And your brain interprets that drop as information. Look for something more rewarding. This is called reward prediction. Your brain constantly compares what it expected to feel with what it actually feels. If reality feels flatter than expected, it searches. Not because you're lazy. Because your motivational circuitry is functioning normally. Here's a simple way to understand it. Imagine your attention as a spotlight in a dark room. For some people, the beam stays still for long periods. For you, the beam scans. It searches for stimulation. For meaning. For movement. If nothing feels engaging, it shifts automatically. There's another layer. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for planning and control, has to regulate impulses from deeper reward systems. When dopamine drops, self-control requires more effort. That effort consumes mental energy. And the brain prefers efficiency. So it redirects. From a cognitive science perspective, this involves the interaction between reward circuits and attentional control networks. The result is what you experience as inconsistency. But underneath it, there is structure. The real question isn't how to force the spotlight to freeze. The question is how to design around a scanning mind. First, shorten the reward loop. Instead of committing to long, undefined blocks of work, define smaller visible endpoints. 20 to 40 minutes. One clear outcome. Why this works. Completion triggers a small dopamine release. Frequent completion keeps the motivational system engaged. Long tasks without feedback starve your brain of reward signals. For example, instead of saying, study for 3 hours, you say, solve 15 questions. Finish. Pause. Reset. You are feeding your brain progress it can measure. Second, introduce controlled novelty. Do not change the goal. Change the format. Novelty increases dopamine. But abandoning direction resets momentum. So you vary stimulation while protecting consistency. If writing feels dull, switch locations. If typing feels flat, try speaking ideas aloud. If silence feels heavy, use a neutral background sound. The task remains. The stimulation shifts. Your brain stays engaged without escaping. Third, externalize attention. Working memory is limited. When too many possibilities compete internally, attention fragments. Writing down a single next action reduces cognitive load. Before beginning, write. For the next 30 minutes, I am doing this. Place it where you can see it. This reduces internal negotiation. Less negotiation means less mental friction. And less friction means steadier focus. Fourth, redefine consistency. Most people measure consistency by duration. But for a scanning mind, a better metric is return speed. You will drift. Everyone does. The difference is how quickly you return. Self-criticism activates the brain's threat system. Threat increases cortisol. Cortisol narrows cognitive flexibility. When flexibility drops, avoidance increases. But when you normalize distraction and calmly return, you protect executive function. You don't need perfection. You need quicker returns. Fifth, allow structured parallel projects. If your brain naturally seeks variety, forcing a single channel can trigger rebellion. Instead of pretending you only care about one thing, choose 2 or 3 active tracks. When energy drops in one, rotate intentionally, not impulsively. This satisfies novelty-seeking while preserving progress. Over time, completion becomes familiar instead of rare. Here's the model to remember. You are not a broken spotlight. You are a scanning spotlight. Trying to glue the beam in one place creates friction. But giving the beam defined boundaries creates direction. Short feedback loops. Controlled novelty. External focus anchors. Faster returns. Intentional rotation. The movement remains. But it happens within structure. And something shifts. You stop calling yourself scattered. You begin seeing yourself as dynamic. There is a difference. Your mind was never designed to sit still in an empty room. It was designed to explore. To connect ideas. To detect patterns. To move. The goal is not to become someone else. The goal is to understand your architecture. Because once you stop fighting your wiring, focus feels less like force. And more like alignment. And maybe tonight, instead of asking, why can't I focus? You ask a quieter question. How can I build around the way I'm wired? Stay with that. Because that question changes the way you see yourself.
If this resonated, stay.